Does your business have an official strategy? Do you have a written strategic plan? And do you review it on a regular basis? When was the last time you looked at your strategic plan? We're going to talk about it on the podcast today. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. A Saturday morning hustle podcast. Out working the competition while they still sleep because the next big thing isn't happening Monday through Friday. And getting to that next level does not happen 9 to 5. You got to put a little bit of extra work in and do just a little bit more. And that's what we're doing today here on the podcast. We're talking about strategy, strategic planning, and the importance of strategic thinking in your pursuit of success. All of this goes together. And this is all part of a presentation I'm working on for next Friday, 4/28 at the Treasury OKC, which is on Film Row. It's a co-work space and a community for driven business women. But this is a co-ed event. Everyone is invited. We are going to have a discussion about what makes a good strategy, what strategic planning is, the value of strategic thinking. Then we're going to do a review of strategic plans of the people in the room, because it doesn't matter how good your strategic plan is if you don't review it on a very regular basis, make adjustments, make updates, etc. That's all part of the process. And of course, Q&A to answer everyone's questions so everyone gets the value of that. Again, that's happening Friday, 4/28 at the Treasury OKC. The links are in the show notes, including my special link for listeners of this podcast. You can go for free by using the links in my show notes. Today, I'm going to give you the elements of a strategic plan for a business, typical standard elements, and explain to you what they mean, how you utilize them, how you put them together. This is going to be an overview of a strategic plan. And then you can attend the event 4/28 and get questions answered. So we're going to begin with item number 1, which is a vision or mission statement. The vision statement describes where the organization wants to be in the future, while a mission statement explains the organization's purpose. So vision is where you would like to go with the business, but the mission is what you do and who you serve in that path to the vision. So you start with your vision and with your mission, because this is our widest perspective on the business. This is the 5 and 10-year vision. This is why you exist and who you serve. This is as general as you can get about your business. From here, we will continually get more and more specific until we get down to daily, weekly actions called tactics, and the measurement that comes with it, so that then eventually we come all the way back up to this 5 and 10-year level and go through the process again. Item number 1, vision and mission statements. Big, broad, 35,000-foot views of your business and where you are going. From that, you can create yearly goals. A year is a great place, a great time period for setting goals. Long enough that it's going to take a while to achieve it, not so far 5 and 10 years down the road that you don't know if you're on the right track or not. So it is something that can be broken down into subsegments, which are objectives we'll talk about next. But setting a goal that is very high, but is in some way achievable and measurable. So a great example of a goal is to double sales in the next year, or to increase sales by a certain dollar percentage next year, or to open a second location, or to add a number of SKUs to your inventory. Again, something that is achievable, measurable, relevant to the business, and is on a time frame, in this case, a year. The reason that your goals have to be relevant is that reaching your goals, or attempting to reach your goals, which is as important as the goals themselves. That's why we set our goals so high and so hard to achieve. But the process, what you do to reach those goals, the actions that come with it, are what create success for your business. So the goals themselves have to be relevant. Also, you only set a couple of goals. 2 to 4 is what I recommend. Some people think up to 7. I find that to be a little bit much. But Your goals can then be broken into objectives. Objectives are the subsets of your goals. So if your goal is to double your sales next year, your objectives naturally would be a 25% increase in sales per quarter, 4 quarters per year, thus a 100% increase in sales. Then from those objectives, you can also break down how you would achieve those quarterly increases in sales, whether it's attracting new audience, higher return rates from existing customers, etc. So set your goals high, set them big, but they have to be relevant, they have to be achievable and measurable, then break them down into even more achievable subsets called objectives, quarterlies, monthlies, even weekly. Now, you typically don't get down into a daily number because you get too caught up in 1 or 2 days of sales or of other types of progress, missing the point. But you also can't wait to the end of the quarter for your quarterly objectives, because if you're missing goals there, if you're in the wrong direction, if you're doing things in the wrong way, you have wasted too much time, too much budget, and you may be too far away from the intended goal to make the necessary adjustment. So, not making adjustments daily, but not waiting to the end of the quarter. There's a balance there, and it depends on what type of business you're in. Item number 3 is the SWOT analysis. Everyone's heard that term before. SWOT, SWOT, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT analysis helps identify internal and external factors affecting the business's success. Strengths and weaknesses. Everyone loves to talk about their strengths and they do not like to talk about their weaknesses, but the truth is everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses. Every business has strengths and every business has a weakness. When you identify your weakness, all of your execution, all the tactics, all the things that we're going to talk about in the strategy will attempt to avoid your weaknesses while embracing your strengths. You want to lead with your strengths. And most people often will make a very, very long list of their strengths. And that's good for motivation and inspiration. But at the end of the day, there's a basic general theme, whether it's price, customer service, technology, etc., that your strengths stem from, and thus the things you want to lead with as you position and market and communicate the value proposition for the business. So embrace your strengths, understand and embrace your weaknesses, because the more you know and can identify the weakness, the more you can work around it so that it is less effect upon your business. Now, opportunities and threats. Opportunities are something you could achieve if you were to put additional effort into it. This is a new audience, new market, adding a new product, doing things in a different way, lowering cost. If you were to do other things in order to make that happen, they won't naturally happen on their own. That's the understanding you need of opportunities. And threats, again, people don't like to talk about threats, but threats are things that could happen to your business that are outside your control. The U.S. economy is a good example of this. Global pandemic is a good example of this. The war in Ukraine, supply chain issues. These are all threats to a business, something that might affect your business, that might derail the strategy of your business, and it is out of your control. There's not much you can do about it. You can react to it, but you didn't cause the problem. Those are the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It is a great place for you to start and truly understand your business, where you're coming from, the things you do well, the things that you don't do well, embrace the things that you do great, and work on the things that are not going as well as planned. Once you have that in place, you can then compare yourself to your competition. This is a competitive analysis. You have to understand who else is in the market, who you're competing with, what strengths they have and weaknesses they have. Everyone has them, again, strengths and weaknesses, and find your position in the industry that allows you to compete at the highest level, for you to lead with all your strengths, to not have to involve any of your weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities listed. That is your competitive analysis. That is positioning. From there, you can now create action plans. Action plans outline the steps the organization needs to take to achieve goals and objectives, including timelines, responsibilities, and resources required. It's just that simple. Now that you know who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses is, your position in the industry, who you're competing with, how will you compete? What actions will you take? These are tactics. The actions that you take, the daily, weekly, monthly activity, the things that you do on a regular basis in order to deliver the message, to deliver the value proposition, to attract audience to you, to retain them, to execute, to deliver, all of that are tactical execution. All of those tactics, which there's crossover, there's multiple tactics that achieve multiple things. There's things that you do at certain times of the year more and things that you do less. There are opportunities you pursue and things that you ignore, etc. All of that can be wrapped up in an action plan, which has your timeline, your responsibility, and resources required. That is your budget. And budget is a team. It's not just time. It's also effort, attention, and money. Time, effort, attention, money, team. With your action plans in place, they have to be followed up with a performance metrics. How will you track the progress towards achieving your goals and objectives and assess the strategy and tactical effectiveness? You do that by setting performance metrics, benchmarks. What do you need to achieve every week, every month in order to hit your objective in the quarter so that you can reach the goal by the end of the year? These are your performance metrics. Are you moving in the right direction? Are you working the way you should? Are you competing as you thought? Are you meeting the expectations that you're setting? Are you achieving your objectives thus you can achieve your goals? If you can't reach your objectives, if you can't reach your monthly objective, which means you can't reach your quarterly objective, you can never meet your yearly goal. So you need to make adjustments. You need to make changes. You need to update. You need to pivot even if your tactical execution, your daily activities don't add up to measurable success on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. That means your actions, your activity, your tactics, your execution is failing, you're moving in the wrong direction, and you have no opportunity to be ultimately successful of reaching your objectives and your goals. That's why we measure on a smaller level, on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, to understand if we are moving towards our objective or not, if we are being successful or not. These come from the metrics that we set before we start. This is essential. You have to define what success looks like before you start. Otherwise, you will simply take any success that you have or any outcome that's not overtly negative and claim it to be success. Now, the other half of this conversation is a lot of things in business happen that is unexpected. Sometimes it's beneficial, sometimes it's positive. Sometimes it is a very good thing and it was unexpected. It's not in your plan. That's okay. You can still follow up on those opportunities, take that benefit as it comes, always let good things happen. And then the adjustment is how you do more of the things that support the new and unexpected but beneficial outcome, and less of the things that were ineffective in creating their own beneficial outcome. Again, you can't wait to the end of the year. You probably can't even wait to the end of the quarter. You need to do something sooner when you have unexpected beneficial outcomes. You can change the definition of success along the way if opportunities are so overwhelmingly beneficial, they prove to be more successful and more beneficial to the business in the long run than their initial definition of success. Not short term, not short money, not a nickel today to lose a dime tomorrow, but beneficial in the long run will allow you to change the definition of what is successful and change your budget, your time, effort, attention, and money spent to follow the things that are working the best. These are the adjustments that we expect you to make. These are the things that are strategic in their approach because we have goals, objectives, because we're working off a strategy based on our SWOT, based on our competitive analysis, And we've put these into action in our action plans, and we are achieving our goals by understanding the metrics, the measurement we put in place with the flexibility of making pivots, adjustments, changes when opportunity that is beneficial arises. But you can't change the definition midstream without a really good reason. And you absolutely can't change it if you are simply failing. Failure, shortcomings, unexpected outcomes, negative outcomes are information. They do tell you things you need to know about how you need to change in order to be successful. You have to listen to that information. You can't simply ignore it and decide to move the goalpost and change the definition of success, change the goals midstream. You still won't get to where you need to be simply by changing the definition of what it is. You can get where you need to be if you follow the definition of success, because positive things happen to you. You have to have your performance metrics in place before you start. You have to define what success looks like before you begin, but keep an open mind that there are lots of ways to be successful. Now that you understand this, you can allocate resources such as finance, personnel, technology to support and implement the action plans. How will you execute the tactics? Who will do it? What budget do they have? How much time, attention, effort, and money do they get in order to spend on? You got to spend money to make money. You also have to spend time and put attention and effort behind something if you want it to work. This is resource allocation. This is how we, before starting, get to define what it should look like, much like with the definition of success, performance, metric definitions before we start. By doing it before you start, there's no stress. There is no specific thing or person or idea that you're embracing or ignoring. You're simply following the path to success. When you're in the heat of it, when you're in the execution, when you're in the thick of it, when you're up to your elbows in the gunk, you can stress and panic and fail to understand the importance of the big picture and the overall goal. Set your definition of success, set your performance metrics, resource allocation. All of that needs to be done before you start. Much like with performance metrics, your budget, your resource allocation can be changed on the fly if the opportunity presents itself that is positive and beneficial enough to justify the pivot. Otherwise, stick to the plan. That plan will allow for minor adjustments, little things in execution. Do you spend money on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram or Twitter ads? Do you buy print ads or TV? Do you create a series of swag to give away at events? Or do you sponsor events? These are things that you often have to decide one or the other on your budget, or a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. Again, follow the path of what makes sense, what's working, what's returning on the investment. Do more of that, less of the things that don't work, while still staying within the confines of reaching your objectives, which will lead you to your goals. Because the goals were set to meet the overall point of the business, the overall achievement of what you're trying to achieve and why the business exists. Now, with all this, you have to be able to communicate. Communication plan is essential so that all stakeholders, and stakeholders are not just employees, not just owners, but customers, clients, vendors, subcontractors, anyone who works for or with or receives value from the business, whether they're an employee who receives a paycheck, a vendor who receives a contract, or a consumer who gets to buy the product or service that they find value in. All of these people are stakeholders, and you have to understand who they are, how they need to be communicated to, and when to communicate to them. You want to communicate as much as possible the way they want you to, as much as you possibly can, without over communicating, but also not under communicating and having them feel left out or not included in the decision-making process. The more you communicate, the better you communicate to stakeholders, the more buy-in they have, the more partnership they have, the more ownership they have, even if it's just in their own head and the more likelihood of brand loyalty, repeat business, etc. So make sure that you understand how you're communicating all the things that you have planned. Now, monitor and evaluate. A strategic plan should include a process of monitoring and evaluating progress towards achieving goals and objectives and making adjustments as necessary. Again, if you wait too long to measure, monitor, and evaluate, it's too late to make the necessary adjustments. But if you make the adjustments every single day, you don't have enough data backing up the decision-making process. Understand that, set a system in place before you start. Now, all of these elements come together to create a strategic plan that can help your business succeed by aligning resources and efforts towards achieving common goals, but including essential elements, a strategic approach, emphasis on your strengths, de-emphasis on your weakness, an understanding of your competition, a position in the market, understanding of your audience, delivering on the promises made, meeting expectations, reaching objectives, which ultimately lead you to your goal. These are the elements of a strategic plan. These are the ideas behind a strategic thought process. If you work everything through these ideas, if you try to put yourself in the place of the strategic planner when you make your decisions, if you ask the questions and work in the order that we just laid out in this conversation, being strategic, achieving things in a strategic, sustainable, repeatable, measurable, dependable way is very, very good for business success. Being successful without understanding how it happened, without being able to replicate that, without having sustainability, that could be actually a negative. Sounds like it's a positive, it's a negative. Achieve success in a measurable, understandable, sustainable, repeatable way, and you won't just achieve success one time. You will achieve success over and over and over again. Thus, reaching your objectives, reaching the goal, having the proper strategy in place, being strategic. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Saturday Morning Hustle podcast. Again, this week, I appreciate it so much. I hope to see some of you, would love to say all of you, but some of you, at our strategy review event on 4/28 at the Treasury OKC on Film Row. Again, the links are in the show notes, and the special for my audience only free RSVP Eventbrite ticket is also in the show notes. So check it out. If you can attend in person, please do use my link to get that ticket free of charge. And if not, we'll talk about how that event went next week on the Saturday Morning Hustle. This Saturday, we're in the office, outworking the competition, doing just a little bit extra to be great, to achieve more, to reach that next level, because 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is not going to create the next big thing. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, tell a friend. I would really appreciate it so much. All of the information, all the past episodes, all the swag is at SaturdayMorningHustle.com. See you next week.